Hello students, welcome to Reno's Englishpedia for class 12th. Today we are going to do the poem An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum, written by Stephen Spender. This is the second poem of the book Flamingo. Stephen Spender was born in England on February 28, 1909. He died on July 16, 1995. Professionally, he was not only a poet but also a novelist and an essayist. All his major themes focus on social wrongs in the society of his time. He had experienced both the First and the Second World War and believed that education was the only way to correct all evils. This poem deals with the aftermath of the two brutal world wars as depicted through a mining town of Welch. It was an age and era of social interests and economic bankruptcy. It highlights the harsh realities of life as experienced by the slum children. In the era of haves and have-nots increasing at an unimaginable pace, the children in the slums are deprived of their basic rights to education. Their eyes dream of a better future, which is distant and beyond their reach. The first stanza of the poem begins with the lines, "Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor." These lines contrast the faces of slum children with the waves. They are lifeless as compared to the energetic waves. The gusty waves indicate brightness, verve, and animation. Verve means enthusiasm. Far, far word indicates that this brightness, this verve, and animation is missing from the slum children's life. They are like rootless weeds. This term rootless weeds has a double effect. The weeds indicate unwanted plants and rootless indicates not belonging to or not having parents. They are unwanted by the society and do not belong to it or to anyone. Their uncombed hair is falling on their pale, colorless faces. These two lines are followed by the description of the children sitting in the class. The tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper seaming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. At back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young. His eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in a tree room other than this. There is a tall girl in the class with her head weighed down with sadness, burdens of life, and uninterestedness. Maybe what she feels is shame because she is probably overaged for the class. There is another boy who is thin like paper. He is undernourished and his eyes pop out from his thin body, looking furtively around like a rat's eyes. His eyes show that he is scared and hungry. There is another unlucky boy who has inherited his father's stunted and twisted growth of bones. He is reciting not only the work in class, but he is also reciting, that is, showing his disease. It also refers to the children's inability to avail medical services in time. At back of the dim class, there is another unnoticed and a sweet young boy. He is probably too young to have been marked by poverty, to have his childish imagination stifled. He daydreams of squirrel's games and about the treehouse of the squirrel and is absent mentally from the classroom. The second stanza provides a description of the classroom. On sour cream walls, donations. Shakespeare head, cloudless at dawn, civilized dome, writing all cities. Belt, flowery, Tyrolese valley. Open handed map, awarding the world its world. And yet, for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, were all their futures painted with a fog. A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. The walls of the classroom are described as sour, which refers to their derelict, that is, rundown condition. In contrast to the walls and the slum children are Shakespeare's head, indicating education and culture. There is a picture of a clear cloudless sky at dawn reflecting upon the domes of the buildings. There is another picture of the beautiful Tyrolese valley indicating the beauty of nature and hope. The dome of the ancient city building stands for civilization and progress, and the world map, which awards the children the world, is giving the children the opportunity to know and explore the world. The slum children's world is, however, a limited world that can be seen through the windows of the classroom and not what the map promises. Their world is confined within the narrow streets of the slum, enclosed by the dull sky far away from rivers and seas that indicate adventure and learning, and from the stars that stand for words that can empower their future. The description of the classroom and the world outside the window conveys irony. World is beautiful with a lot of opportunities, but the world of the slum children is full of misery and hopelessness. Their future is foggy, that is dim. It is bleak, which means hopeless, and it is dull. Lead sky implies a dim sky or a dimly lit sky, or the bleak, dull life and future of the slum children. The third stanza of the poem is very important as it shows the incongruity or the irony between the reality of the children's life and the decor of the classroom. Surely Shakespeare is wicked, the map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal, for lives that slyly turn in the cramped holes, from fog to endless night. On their slag heap, these children wear skins, peeped through by bones, and spectacles of steel with mended glass, like bottle bits on stones. All of the time and space are foggy slum, so blot the maps with slums as big as doom. The map of the world and the head of Shakespeare are cruel and bad examples. They tempt the children living in cramped houses or holes to steal. Their lives slyly, that is cunningly, revolve around dullness and hopelessness as they imagine and long for adventure, for a better life, and for love. Their undernourished, wasted bodies are compared to slag, that is, waste, which is heaped together. Their bodies seem to be wearing clothes of skin which cover their protruding bones, and they are wearing spectacles of steel with cracked glasses which make them look at the world in a distorted way. These cracked glasses appear like mended bottle bits or objects which prick them. In this stanza, the bitterness of the poet is clear. He wants the map of the world to be blotted with the slums which are as big as doom. This stanza conveys the massive size of the slum area. He is trying to show that the life of the children is completely dominated by the slum area. Each moment and all the places are foggy and dim without a single hope. The last stanza of the poem continues with the plight of the children, but after 3 lines, it suddenly branches on to the desire and wishes of the poet. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs. Break, oh, break open till they break the town, and show the children to green fields and make their world run azure on gold sands, and let their tongues run naked into books, the white and green leaves open. History theirs, whose language is the sun. In this stanza, the poet is trying to say that until some dignitary visits the school, the life of the slum children remains the same. It is only the visits by governors, inspectors, and visitors which can bring some change and hope. The only hope of a life beyond the slum that encloses their life like catacombs is some initiative by the governor, inspector of schools, or a visitor. The poet fervently hopes that the slum children will have access to a better education and a better way of life. According to the poet, the children need to break out of the restraining, miserable, hopeless walls of the slum so that they can wander beyond on to the green fields and golden sands. It is indicating the unlimited world which is right now inaccessible to the children. They must find their own place in the sun and be counted as individuals. They should be given the privilege to read the books that they like and also to explore the green nature. The poet says that the slum children too can write their own history, create their own identity if they are allowed to be free like the sun. In order to completely understand the poem, it is imperative to understand its vocabulary. The first word is gutsy, which means to blow strongly. Pallor means the pale color of the face. Weighed down means burdened. Paper seeming means very thin. Peep through means just visible. Gnarled means bent and rough bones. Twisted means bent or distorted. Stunted means not growing properly. And heir means successor. Mended means repaired. Cramped, not having enough space for people. Slag means waste material left behind after iron ore has been extracted. Heap means pile. Catacombs refers to the underground tunnels used for burying dead people. Sealed means enclosed. Blood means to smudge. Doom refers to death or destruction. Azure refers to the blue sky. Tongues run naked refers to education. Language is the sun means warm and strong and independent like the sun. There is no rhyme scheme in the poem. It is written in free verse, that is, no poetic rules are followed. There are many literary devices used in the poem. The first is simile, which means that two unlike things are compared with one point in common. The comparison is introduced with the words like or as. Over here, the children are compared to rootless weeds and the point of comparison is their unwantedness. The glasses of the children have been compared to bottle bits on stones. The slums are compared to doom, and the life of the children has been compared to catacombs. The second literary device used in the poem is metaphor. Metaphor means implied comparison. It means that one thing is not said to be like another thing, but is assumed so. The examples of metaphor are paper seeming boy, rat size, father's gnarl disease, squirrel's game, tree room, sour cream walls, spectacles of steel, cramped holes, narrow street sealed with a lead sky, futures painted with a fog, the white green leaves open. Other literary devices used are repetition of the word far to stress on the distance and alliteration in the words from fog. Alliteration means when a particular sound is repeated. Over here, the sound of f is repeated. This poem has many images and symbols. The examples of images and symbols in this poem are gusty waves, Tyrolese valley, rootless weeds, open-handed map, the paper seeming boy, ships and sun, twisted bones, cramped holes, sour cream balls, bottle bits on stones, Shakespeare's head, and gold sands. With this, we come to the end of the poem. I hope you liked it. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to Reno's Englishpedia for class 12th.